everyone, I'm Charlie from Dr. Wen, and welcome to another daily Doctor Who YouTube video. Today, as you can see from this slide, I will be ranking all 4 episodes of Spearhead from Space, from worst to best. Spearhead from Space is the very first episode of Classic Season 7, and the very first story that features the 3rd Doctor, as well as companion Liz Shaw. For those of you who haven't seen the story, but I would recommend getting it, then it's about a nesting plot to basically overthrow the Earth by replacing high up government figures with plastic mannequins, and it's a really creative idea, and I really like it. It was the introduction of Autons, and I actually did a review of the episodes a couple of days ago on Sunday. I'd definitely go and check that out if I were you. So, I'm going to be ranking the 4 episodes from the 3rd to the 24th of January 1970 in order of worst to best, but I don't think any of these episodes are particularly bad. It's just that some are better than others, and I'm going to tell you which I prefer and don't prefer. Let's get into this video. In 4th place we have episode 1, the very first episode of the 1970s Doctor Who, and the very first time we see the 3rd Doctor. This is a very good introduction to this era, and it defines the earthboundness of it quite well. But the main reason why it's in last place is that we don't really get to see much of the Doctor. Lots of the time he's either falling out of his TARDIS or in a hospital. He does get a good moment at the end where he's escaping from the people who are trying to kidnap him by wheeling his wheelchair all the way around that village in his hospital gown with his mouth taped shut. I thought that was a really good idea. And we have the amazing cliffhanger at the end where he gets shot, and I feel sorry for people who had to wait a week to find out what happened. It's a very good cliffhanger, but the main reason why it's in last place is that we don't actually get that much Doctor, and the subplot with the poacher called Sam Seeley finding one of the nesting consciousness, it just takes up too much time and is one of my least favourite parts of this entire story. Overall, it's still a really good introduction, but could have been improved on if the subplot didn't exist. In 3rd place we have episode 3, the penultimate episode of this story, and the main reason why it's lower down than episodes 2 and 4 is that, again, like series 1, there is way too much subplot. The majority of the episode takes place in a unit tent, where they're interrogating Sam Seeley, and it just takes up way too much time. Instead, it could show the Doctor inventing gadgets or driving around in cars like he's known to do. But nope, we had to have the subplot. But the main reason why it's better than episode 1 is that it's quite interesting to see that it's villain-orientated. It mainly focuses on Ransom, a salesperson who got kicked out of the company for no real reason, and he was trying to find out why, because his the head of the company is now following orders from someone else known as Channing, who is actually a Nestine, and it's really interesting to see that side of the story, and I wouldn't really call it a subplot because it's to do with the main villain. I do like how the Doctor is fine again in this episode, and he's out doing stuff and doing science and inventing gadgets. I do really like that. And the cliffhanger gives us a bit of insight into the plot reveal for the next episode, where the Army General, General Scobie, gets replaced by a plastic version of himself. That's a really creepy... It's just a really creepy idea, getting replaced by an Auton, and I'd really like to see the Autons return, actually. But overall, it's got a bit too much subplot, but it's interesting how it's more villain-orientated. Just like episode 1, it doesn't really have that much Doctor, but it's still really good. Now we're getting on to some really good episodes in this. In 2nd place we have episode 2. The main reason why I really like episode 2 is that the Doctor is brilliant in this episode. He firstly gets admitted back to the hospital, but then he escapes his room and he finds some clothes, and they're the clothes he will wear for the next few seasons of Classic Who. And I do like how he's driving that car. I know it's just a little detail, but it gives us an insight on what the Doctor will be like, because the Doctor was known for driving lots of different cars, one of which being the Whomobile, which I'll get into in one of my later videos. And this episode also has a really great cliffhanger with Mr. Ransom snooping around in the plastic factory, and the Autons come alive and start to attack him. I thought that was really good, and it gave us our first proper look at the Autons, besides that one that was just standing in the field. Overall, this was a really strong episode, and, well, it's not as good as this next one. In first place, we have episode 4, the final episode of the first story of season 7, and it is incredible. I would go as far to say it is a masterpiece. Firstly, there was this awesome scene where all the Autons were breaking out of those windows. Obviously we didn't see any of the broken glass because the budget wouldn't allow for that, but this was still a really good scene where they were attacking all the cars and roads. I thought that was really good. The Third Doctor also starts to build a gadget in this, which he eventually uses against Ornestine, which I thought was really good, and it was our first proper introduction to this Third Doctor. This is the episode that made me really see the Third Doctor as the Doctor. There's an episode of those for every Doctor. And for the Third Doctor, that is that episode. Also, it paves the way nicely for the next story, which is Doctor Who and the Silurians. It kind of wraps everything up in that scene at the end in Unit Headquarters, where the Third Doctor is now working for Unit as one of their scientific advisors with Liz's assistant. The TARDIS is still broken, but they promise to get him a new car. This is like where everything starts for the Third Doctor. But overall, this is a really strong story, not just this episode, but a really strong story overall. I really like every second of it, and it's a brilliant opener to Season 7 of Classic Who. Next time, I will explain to you who my favourite Master is, and why they're my favourite Master. Stay in tune for tomorrow's video, don't forget to subscribe, and goodbye.